Hi, Gideon here. This is a quick one. If any of your apps use React Server components in any way, shape or form, then they have a critical security vulnerability and should be upgraded immediately. Here's a TLDR. There's an unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerability in React Server components, and they recommend upgrading immediately. On Saturday, November 29th, Lachlan Davidson reported a security vulnerability in React that allows an unauthenticated remote code execution by exploiting a flaw in how React decodes payloads sent to the React Server function endpoints, which is a CVSS rating of 10. Critical. Now look here, even if your app does not implement any remote server function endpoints, it may still be vulnerable if your app supports React Server components. The vulnerability is present in these versions here of React Server DOM for Webpack, Parcel, and TurboPack. A fix was introduced in these versions here, so if you're using any of these packages, upgrade to the fixed versions immediately. They clarify here that if your app's React code does not use a server, your app is not affected by this vulnerability. Also, if your app does not use a framework, bundler, or bundler plugin that supports React Server components, your app is not affected by this vulnerability. By the way, I'm working on a video on how to host a dynamic portfolio website for free. And spoiler alert, it will use React, but not the server components, so it doesn't have this vulnerability. For me, I'll just need to update React and React DOM. Anyway, subscribe if you do not want to miss that. So let's see the affected frameworks and bundlers. Some React frameworks and bundlers depended on, had peer dependencies for, or included the vulnerable React packages. The following React frameworks and bundlers are affected, and of course Next.js had to be first. React Router, Waku, Parcel and ReactJS RSC plugins, and Redwood SDK. They have already upgraded the post with upgrade instructions, which we shall get to in a bit. But what's the actual vulnerability? React Server functions allow a client to call a function on a server. React provides integration points and tools that frameworks and bundlers use to help React code run on both the client and the server. React translates requests on the client into HTTP requests, which are forwarded to a server. On the server, React translates the HTTP request into a function call and then returns the needed data to the client. So, an unauthenticated attacker could craft a malicious request to any server function endpoint that, when deserialized by React, achieves remote code execution on the server. Okay, these are the update instructions. For Next.js, all users should upgrade to the respective latest patched version as shown here. But if you're on Next.js 14.3.0 Canary or a later Canary release, downgrade to the latest stable version 14 using the command here. See the Next.js changelog for more info. If you're using React routers and stable RSC APIs, then upgrade the following package.json dependencies if they exist as shown here. For Expo, upgrade to the latest React Server DOM Webpack. For Redwood SDK, first update to the latest version as shown, then upgrade to the latest React Server DOM Webpack. See their docs for more migration instructions. The same goes for Waku. For the bundlers, update React and React DOM and then the respective RSC plugin package. Then finally, the React team gives us the timeline of this critical security vulnerability. It was reported on Saturday, November 29th by Lachlan Davidson. The Meta security researchers confirmed it on 30th, and the React team began working on a fix. On December 1st, a fix was created, and the React team began working with affected hosting providers and open source projects to validate the fix, implement mitigations, and roll out the fix. And yesterday, December the 3rd, the fix was published to NPM and publicly disclosed as CVE 2025-55182. Again, thank you to Lachlan Davidson for discovering, reporting, and working to help fix this vulnerability. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Now go patch your apps, and until the next one, lights out.